The debate regarding multilingualism continues to rage in South Africa. Calls are increasing for children to be educated in their mother tongue, with the United Nations saying first language learning must be introduced from the foundation stages of education. In just the past week, we've also seen fierce discussion sparked over the decision to rename some Eastern Cape towns. Now, for more on this, I'm joined by Xolisa Chongolo, the acting CEO of the Pan-South African Language Board. A very good afternoon to you, Xolisa, and thank you so much for your time, sir. Let's start with the renaming of the towns in this country. Why is it receiving so much backlash, and is the backlash justified?
You know, there are many mixed feelings, you know, and also depending on what people expected. People will always have different views on these things because they are historic, they are also political, but we as PanSouth were interested on the side of language of it, you know, whereby we would only be interested as to whether is the name spelled correctly, and also whether is it pronounced correctly, you know, all the grammatical features of it. So that's what's interested to us. But the rest is mainly preferences of people, you know, preferring this instead of that. So, and also the issue of bringing the originality of things. For example, if you look at PE now being renamed as Bedecha, you know, people will claim that they know Bedecha better than Port Elizabeth because Bedecha is the name of the river, you know, which is there in the location there. So then it makes more sense for them, for their place to be called with something they know. So it's mainly those things, yes.
I understand, Xolisa, that you're saying that your guys' concern mainly is just to ensure that, you know, the spelling, if it is changed to an African name, is correct. But, you know, keeping the names of towns and streets, because there's been an argument at least that keeping them is because it's part of the country's history. But the history isn't exactly pleasant, at least where South Africa is concerned. So would it not be important to change them, whether be it to an African name or to a name that does not link this country to a painful past?
Yes, that is true. As I'm saying, there are competing needs, competing mandates, competing all sort of things. You know, it's like when during the time of removing statues, you know, in the country, others will say, no, these statues, they contain history, our history. So we need to keep on seeing them. And then others will say, no, they belong in the museum, whereby you will speak and will make a special visit to see them. So the same applies when it comes to changing of names and stuff like that. But as I'm saying, for us, when it comes to language, it becomes actually more sense-making when you see a notice board or a billboard written in Setswana or in Xhosa, you know. So when it comes to language, that becomes developmental more than anything else. But as I'm saying, people will say, no, we're starving, so we don't really care about the change of name, the change of streets, you know. Yeah. So it's those things.
Let's look at the matter of language then, Xolisa. There have been calls for children to be educated in their mother tongue. I know there was a story that here on eNCA we were running where there's a school in the Eastern Cape that has, you know, kids being taught under a tree because the teachers are fighting for the kids to be taught Xhosa. But given that English is the preferred medium of communication in all spheres of society in this country, would reverting to mother tongue education not be a hindrance, especially, let's say, for example, in business?
You know, let's first correct it that it is not correct to say it is English is a preferred language. It is just a language that is used by default, you know. So not everyone prefers to be taught in English because English is the language of the few in the country. But it happened that the country is trading in English. So meaning that all its things are done, most of its economic and industry, like everything is trading in English. But then the mother language education doesn't say English must be taken away, but it says that you must teach a child in a language that he or she understands better so that she can get full grasp of the content of what is being taught. Meaning that you can teach a child in isiSotho or in Xhosa while the child is also learning to speak good English. So that's what we are saying as the Pan-South African Language Board and also the language fraternity.
So is it safe then to assume that you guys are saying that South Africa is ready to embrace mother tongue education, and by that I mean that all 11 languages can find common ground, and, you know, the enhancement of education can take place with kids, you know, being taught kaSesotho, kaSetswana, ngeXhosa, ngesiZulu?
Yes, the environment, it is conducive in terms of this language is being developed. But it's just that now it becomes the will of government as either to actually redirect resources from that side, whereby now teaching material will be developed in these languages. So it's not about these languages not being fit, but it's about the will of government being willing to actually direct resources towards the use of these languages. So they can be used in any domain, like any other language. So the country, it is ready because all of these languages are written down, meaning that they've got grammar, they've got spelling rules, they've got orthographic rules. So meaning that they can be used. Unlike a language that is not structured, which now that will create a problem if we were to use such a language for teaching and learning. So these languages are more than ready to be used.
Xolisa, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. He is the Chief Executive Officer of the Pan-South African Language Board. Of course, that's Xolisa Chongolo joining us there.